Alright, hello guys, I'm back with another video here. And today we're gonna read DeathGuy. Anyway, this is a random creepypasta submitted by some user that I don't know. But the picture you see right now, this is DeathGuy. Apparently, we haven't even read this yet. Alright. This is a story about a game that was haunted by DeathGuy. When I got home from school, my mom was going to the shops and she wondered if... Excuse me? What? And she wondered if I wanted to go with her. So I did. When we were driving to the shops, I kept hearing, "Don't do it," play over and over in my head. But I shrugged it off and thought nothing of it. Why would you think nothing of that? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Satan is the only one left.
When we finally arrived at the shop, there was a very run-down and jerky second-hand store run by a tall, skeleton-like man who stared at me. I don't know what he means by jerky. Was the guy jerking off?
Probably janky is what he meant.
Yeah. I asked my mom if I can go and see what they had. She let me. As I approached the second-hand store, I heard the voice say again, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it." Once again. I thought nothing of it. Why do you think nothing of your voice saying don't do it? Why? You have voices in your head. When I walked in, I noticed that there is nearly nothing in the store but games and brands that I've never heard of before. A game in the corner of my eye called Creepy Fun Time caught my attention. It looked very bootleg-like.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It had a scratched up black label that had a pen screwed over it and a 666 carved into it. I was intrigued and curious as to what it was. I don't know. Upon further inspection, I realized that it was a game for the NES. I got an NES for my birthday only a week ago, but I had no games for it.
Because I live in the 80s.
This was really convenient. So I grabbed it and asked the creepy guy how much it cost, and he told me that it was free. This was an offer I could never turn down. When my mom finished shopping, we went home and I called my friends, Timmy, Joe, and Bob. Oh, wow. Wow. If you... That is...
have no style.
That is the most generic names you could use. Anyway, he invited them over for a sleepover. When they arrived, I told them that I got a new game, and they were really excited to see what it was. When I popped the cartridge into the NES, it began to shake and make a buzzing sound. Dude, I think you need to return your NES. I had hyper-realistic blood! No, I had never used an NES before, so I thought it was natural. He thought it was natural for an NES to do that.
And then the NES finished Freddy's reference over.
My parents were asleep, and I couldn't ask them. When the title screen came up, it had the words Creepy Fun Time in a rainbow color flashing on the screen.
Because it's gay.
And under the title was a little boy smiling with a baseball cap on his head.
Because he's gay.
On his head? On his head?
Because he's gay.
And the only options were story, multiplayer, and credits. Since I had only one controller, I told my friends that we would play the story, and if you die or pass a level, that we would pass the controller to the next person. They agreed, and when they clicked the story, the game flashed the title screen. But it was different. The title was completely black. There were rusty spikes and hyper-realistic blood and body parts on them. And the ocean in the background was replaced with hyper-realistic blood and guts. The worst part was the mascot. His eyes were completely black with little red pupils in the middle. His hat had 666 on it, and it was drenched in hyper-realistic blood! A high-pitched demonic laugh also played. When we got into the game, we had only one choice of character. His name was DeathGuy, and he looked just like the kid from the title screen. The world we started was called Hell Area 1666. When we started to play, the ocean in the background was filled with hyper-realistic blood and guts. There were dead bodies on rusty spikes. They were still alive and moving, and they had hyper-realistic blood coming off their bodies, and had hyper-realistic blood curdling screams. Joe said that he needed to go to the toilet, so we let him. Timmy told me that the game looked a lot like Super Mario Brothers, but with blood and bodies on spikes. The only weapons on my characters were...
It took Ellie both sugar free.
Oh,
were a chainsaw and a barbed wire bat. When I started walking in the game, I could hear hyper-realistic steps that sounded like they were stepping in pools of blood! We heard a scream come from the bathroom. And when we went to the bathroom to check on Joe, his eyes were scooped out of his head and a note on his body saying, "Stop it!"
Because he can write when his eyes are being
We put Joe in the cupboard and tried to hide him.
In the cupboard?
What?
Because I know my mom won't fit my food up there.
Anyway, I just spilled ice all over me.
Uses the cupboard.
Yeah, nobody.
Whoever even opened
When we got to the back of the game, a person looked like Joe appeared in front of me. I walked up to him and cut his head off with a chainsaw, and we heard a donk from the cupboard we stuffed Joe into. When we looked inside, his head rolled off. We just grabbed his head and put his head back into the cupboard. Bob then threw up bloody vomit when he went to look at the screen. There stood a person who looked like Bob, vomiting blood. I went onto the game and bashed him to death with a barbed wire bat. Hyper-realistic blood spewed out of his body, and the same happening in the real life. Eventually, the character in the game collapsed, and the same thing happened with the real-life Bob. Timmy and I shoved Bob into the cupboard with Joe. Timmy told me to turn the game off, and when I tried to, I heard a voice tell me to stop. But when I pulled the NES plug out of the wall, the game kept playing. A person who looked like Timmy appeared on the screen, and DeathGuy automatically approached him and cut him in half with a chainsaw.
Of course he did.
Timmy then screamed as he was cut in half by DeathGuy in real life. I then ran to the garage to get a hammer, and as I ran, the walls dripped with hyper-realistic blood! And the Patricks then came out of the wall and tore my arm off. I screamed at the top of my lungs in the pain and then continued to the garage. When I finally got to the hammer, the DeathGuy appeared and behind me and grabbed my testicles, so I smashed a hammer in his head and he fell over. I then continued to run to the lounge and I smashed the NES. As I saw the sparks emanate from the console, DeathGuy disappeared. I then grabbed Creepy Fun Time and put it into the oven and watched it burn.
And this was my
As I was
on acid.
And this was
as I was watching Creepy Fun Time burn, I heard the phone ring, so I picked it up. The person said, "Thank you."
Hello.
The person said, "Hello, welcome to your new summer job at Hyper-Realistic Blood!" I then threw the phone at the wall and stepped on it and screamed, "Who was the phone?"
Guy.
The end.
The next morning, I was awoken by the death trumpet, and he raped me with his slide.
Because he
After I was raped, a skeleton popped out, and I had a heart attack and died.
Because it's a creepypasta.
Those
I know,
trumpets
full
are going to
boss
be the
stuff.
end of us.
That was the end of
My
DeathGuy.
acid experience.
That was the end of this dude's acid experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I screamed so much, but
Well, I'm an artist and I need help.
I had some friends here. I had a guy with an old YouTube channel, another guy with an old YouTube channel, and a guy that I'm going to link you to. Unless you guys want me to link you to, too.
I'm nobody.
Probably.
Anyway, I'll see you guys later. This was a terrible creepypasta. I'll link it in the description. It was actually a crappy pasta. Thank you to crappypastawiki.com
I hate all my
for
subscribers.
doing that
Unsubscribe
stuff.
to me, thanks.
What are you saying, Hunter? I'll see you guys later.